Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Joy Nicole Ainsafulo from Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English, Block 205. Today, we will going to talk about Bicol literature and one of its example. Before we start, I will ask a question. What can we best describe a woman, a maiden, or a lady? Maybe we can say a woman is kind, pretty, exceptional, unique, empowered, and beautiful. Those are some of the traits of a woman. Bicol is a region in the Philippines encompassing the southern part of Luzon part or Luzon Island and nearby island provinces. Bicol's people or the Bicolanos are known for their brave personality. Uragon ang mga Bicolano. Sila ay magaling dumiskarte. Uragon. Bicolanos have passion. Passion for everything they do. Today, we will talk about an empowered woman of Bicol region. Bicol literature is poetry, novel, or fiction written about Bicol. Not necessarily in the Bicol language, not necessarily published in Bicol, and not necessarily by a Bicolano, but it's about Bicol. Meaning, it is a short story and its setting is in Bicol or the characters are Bicolanos. As I have said earlier, we will going to talk about an empowered version of a Bicolana. So that a specific woman is Daragang Magayon, but with a twist. I know you are all familiar with this story because of the prior reason that we are Bicolanos. Before we continue to the story, I will going to share to you about informations of the author or the writer of this story, the Cantata of the Warrior Woman o si Daragang Magayon, which is Merlinda C. Bobis. Merlinda C. Bobis, the author, is a Filipino-Australian writer, performer, and academic. Bobis grew up in Albay, Philippines. The author of 2 novels, 5 poetry books, 7 dramatic works, a monograph, and a collection of short stories. She has received numerous accolades and awards for her works. Merlinda earned a BA from Aquinas University of Legazpi and an MA in Literature from University of Santo Tomas, Manila. She completed a doctorate of creative arts at the University of Wollongong in New South Wales, Australia, where she currently teaches creative writing. Bobis is an accomplished performer of her own poetry, embodying text in dance, music, and theater. Her latest novel, Fish Hair Woman, came out in 2012. So we come now to the story or the epic Cantata of the Warrior Woman, which is Daragang Magayon. The traditional legend of Daragang Magayon, as what most Bicolano know or the Filipinos know, goes this way. Behind Mount Mayon, rising 2,462 meters above Bicol, is a legend telling people that at the core of this magnificent and world-famous volcano, which has been restless since 1999, is the heart of a woman longing to be free. Mayon was derived from the Bicol word Magayon, which means beautiful, and was used to name one of the most active volcanoes in the country and one of the natural wonders of the world for its near perfect cone shape. According to folklore or the traditional legend, the traditional version of the story Daragang Magayon or the beautiful maiden is the only daughter of the tribal chief Makosog, or in English, Strong. She grew up to be so beautiful and lovely that men from other tribes vied for her affection. But she was indifferent to all her suitors, not even that to Pagtuga. Pagtuga in English is eruption. A powerful chief and great hunter could win her heart even if he showered her father with gifts. One day, Ulap, or in English cloud, came after a long walk to see for himself the celebrated beauty of the maiden. Unlike other suitors, Ulap waited patiently until love blossomed between them. Sensing that his daughter was in love, Makosug did not object to the betrothal and asked his people to prepare a wedding feast. The news enraged Pagtuga, who abducted Makosug and sent word to Magayon that unless she married him, her beloved father would die and that the war would be waged against her tribe. Magayon could not do anything but give in to Pagtuga's demand. On the other hand, informed about the unhappy turn of events, Ulap, along with his warriors, arrived in time for the wedding rites and killed Pagtuga. This was not the tale's happy ending. As Magayon rushed to embrace Ulap, she was hit by an arrow and fell to Ulap's arm. A follower of Pagtuga hurled a spear at Ulap's back, killing him instantly. The tragic lovers were buried in one grave, which as time passed was transformed into a hill. Rumblings, quakes, and huge boulders sprouted from the top of what is Mount Mayon today. As I have said, there is a twist. In Cantata of the Warrior Woman, which is Daragang Magayon, the epic poem originally written in Filipino and English by Bicol poet Merlinda C. Bobis, the award-winning poet from Albay, chooses to rewrite and reinvent the traditional myth. In her story, Daragang Magayon dies to her name, with which she was oppressed, and she becomes the nameless one, who can assume all names of her choice, or the nameless one who owns all names. The story portrays how women were treated in ancient times, like those of the lower class, like they belong in the lower class. Their lives determined by men around them and without freedom to speak for themselves. So, in other words, women are controlled by men. In the early 1990s, a significant twist in the myth arose after Bicolana poet, which is the author Merlinda C. Bobis, redefined the character of Daragang Magayon from being a victim to a woman who bravely battled against oppression. She was transformed into a woman guerrilla. In the reinvented story, Daragang Magayon ceases to be the victim. She is no longer the game in the hunt, but the warrior woman in the struggle against oppression. She wages war against Pagtuga, the evil hunter in the old legend, not necessarily the male adversary, but as the symbol of oppression. Daragang Magayon transforms into the Amazona of Philippine politics, the female guerrilla, the rebel, and armed. Daragang Magayon is a typical girl who feared blood. was weak and vulnerable. She suffered rejection not only by other people in the tribe, but also by her own father. The elders in their tribe, who took advantage of the weakness of her aging father Makosog, planned that Magayon be forced to marry Pagtuga as more of a political strategy for the benefit of the tribe. When Magayon learned of that, she decided to transform into a warrior to be the delight of his father, who told her, "Indeed, you are of my own blood." Unlike in the traditional legend, where Magayon decided to marry Pagtuga in exchange for her father's freedom, in Bobis' version, she asked for guidance from the goddess Magindara. The women in the tribe did not want Magayon to marry Pagtuga because they thought he was an enemy, a symbol of oppression against women during their time. When Magayon inquired from Magindara, she answered her question with another question. Anong sira ang daing nagsasabat sa sulong? Or in English, what is the fish that doesn't go against the current? Magayon knew the answer. Tigbak na sira, or a dead fish. What Magayon is trying to portray in her character redefined by Bobis is that I am not just beautiful. I am not just a weak and typical princess, but I am more than that. The maiden decided to fight for her father's freedom, as well as her freedom to love. She was no longer a victim who depended on her tribesmen and ulap to be rescued. In the end of the epic though, it was implied that both Magayon and Ulap died in the battle. But Magayon here died in unsurrendered struggle. She was fighting until the end. Just like Daragang Magayon, she appears to be glorious, beautiful, calm, and placid, but when you listen closely, you will hear murmurs of story untold about her endless struggle. Being beautiful doesn't necessarily mean that you are exceptional physical. You are beautiful, you are flawless, but also, it is more important to know what is inside you, who you are, and what you will be. This legend showed how powerful the love is. During difficulty, your love for him or her will move you to sacrifice even your life just for the one you love so much, like Ulap did for Daragang Magayon.